this taping, my friend Eric Greene has since gone on home to glory. So he never got the opportunity to see the piece that you're about to enjoy. But we only found it fitting to give him the tribute that he deserves. And in so doing, now we take that time. I have to tell you who Eric was, and indulge me this at this time. Eric was both a champion to his community and a champion for his community. And it was my great pleasure to have known him. When I attended his service, his brother, Michael Greene, eulogized him. So to give you some insight into the manner of the man that he was. His brother Michael goes on to tell a story about Eric, in which that he mentioned that Eric had done an ancestry search and had found some of the people in his lineage. One of which happened to be a great-grandfather of his, a couple generations removed. In fact, his great-grandfather was long since dead before Eric was born. Eric wasn't just satisfied with having found who his great-grandfather was. Eric went and found his great-grandfather's headstone. Michael mentioned when he eulogized their great-grandfather, he eulogized his brother, that upon Eric's finding his great-grandfather's headstone, it was overrun with brush, debris, trees, if you will, a little forest. And what our man Eric did, he lumberjacked up, got his chainsaw, cut the trees down, picked up the debris, wiped away the brush, cleaned off his great-grandfather's headstone, and honored the great-grandfather that he never met in the fashion in which he was due. And that's just a peek into the insight, the character, the integrity of the man. Now for me personally, long before Eric and I had got together to shoot his show, we would run into each other at different events, conscious events, cultural events, the grocery store for that matter. And we always had the desire to work together and were waiting for the occasion. What so happened, this was supposed to be the start of it. And he and I were going to collaborate with another gentleman that you've seen, Ricardo Lucas. And we were going to do some things in the community that Ricardo's had great success at already, and he was going to kind of mentor us. And in the words and the vernacular of everybody who is like our call letters, a real cat, and time again, Eric had told me at the grocery store, a parking lot, a library, he'd look me in my eye, and he'd say this phrase, that if you're a real cat, you repeat and know. He'd say, brother, I'm down. And I knew when he said it, he meant it. Now in closing, I got to say this about Eric. There's another adage that says this: a man dies but once, but a coward dies 1,000 times. Eric has the great distinguishment and honor of having lived as a man, having died as a man, and to be remembered as one. The legacy of Eric, though he's departed from this life, lives on. So it is my great honor. As I mentioned when I stood to my feet, as I mentioned when I introduced Ricardo, I've met few men that caused me to stand to my feet. But as I did in Ricardo's introduction, I stand in the tribute of Eric. And as the adage mentions, with the real men, please stand up. By which Eric, by all means, every bit of that. And that's why we honor him here on Real Cat TV. So, brother, on behalf of all of us here at Real Cat TV, Rest in peace, brother. Rest in peace. Welcome to this edition of Live at the Q, where you don't have to be on the Q or from the Q, but just to be community-minded, and where we want to remind you where our call letters, Real Cat Television, our slogan says it all. Our call letter says it all. With me today, our guest is Mr. Eric Greene. I'm going to let him give you a little background about himself. He's been very much involved in the community in different capacities, both in his employ, both in the times of his leisure, and done some things, whether it be with community garden or compost of dirt with Sister Greene, no relation, where he's jumped in and helped both hands and both feet. And we appreciate him being with us today. Brother Greene, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you asking.
Brother Greene, tell me, you and I met at FBOE.
Yeah, that's right.
FBOE, and Roger is the sponsor of FBOE.
Yeah.
And at the time, Dr. what was her name?
I can't think of.
I can't think of her name.
Doctor. Can't think of her name.
She was a liaison at that.
Right.
At JUCO.
Director of admissions at Kansas City Community College.
Thank you.
Is what she was.
Okay.
Her official capacity.
Okay.
So.
And I met you because on occasion you would be there, and you would be driving.
And the mobile employment bus is what they call it.
The mobile employment bus.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Is that still in operation? I don't know that I've seen it.
It's still in operation.
I don't see it with the frequency that I saw when you were.
I don't think they really run it that much anymore, to be honest with you. I really don't think they, at the time it was mandated to be out like 40 hours a week on the station.
Okay.
And I made it a point to do that.
Yeah.
Now they don't, which meant that I had to be out like 80 hours a week, you know, because it had to be on station from 8 to 5.
Okay.
I had to go get it. And,
Your travel time.
Right. I had to bring it, you know, it was in Johnson County, and I had to bring it to wherever it was at.
Okay.
Sometimes I'd go to Johnson County and pick it up and take it to Atchison. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
And I
okay.
might be at Atchison until 5, 6 o'clock in the evening.
Okay.
And I'd have to bring it back and park it. Man, I was changing oil and everything.
Oh,
you know?
wow. Okay. You were getting down with it.
Too
Okay.
much. Too much, man. But yeah, we were, I think, bringing it up to the community college, and then every Thursday,
Yes.
I was bringing it up.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it was a failed experiment.
Really?
Because what people needed for that mobile unit, it didn't need it at the college. They needed internet access. Well, the college already had that. They needed computers. The college already had that. So it was a failed experiment. Because that's what brought me to Fringe Benefits, because I was sitting out there by myself all the time. Nobody was coming out there.
Right.
Met Roger, and you know, my aunt Sherry was a friend of Roger's.
Okay.
And so she had told me about him before, so that's when I started going to FBOE. It was off a fluke, was off a failed experiment.
Right.
That's how that kind of worked. But that's what I was doing at the time. Yeah, it was working for a workforce partnership.
And how long did you work in that capacity?
I worked there for approximately 4 years.
Were you always in driving or
No. I started working at Workforce 2006 or so, and I started working out of the Leavenworth office.
Okay.
I was working out of the Leavenworth office. I can't remember exactly what they called the role, but I was basically helping people find employment after they left their schools and trades.
Okay.
And I was, you know, helping them connect with employers and things of that sort. And I was working that for Leavenworth County. And then I got transferred and was working it for Johnson County.
Okay.
And then moved up into this capacity, the role as the mobile unit coordinator. Supposed to be a 5-person staff and a mobile coordinator. Then ended up, you know, Eric Greene and
Eric.
right. That's who it was. But we had a good time with it.
Okay.
And I was able to take the employment bus to where a lot of people in Juniper Gardens and 18th and Quindaro and up there the Inner Springs Mall. And, you know, places like that where we would sit. I'd sit on 38th and State, and you know, and actually places like way out State Avenue, where there were a lot of people out there that didn't have internet access. You know, 150th, 160th and State Avenue, which was part of Wyandotte County, and down south like Gardner, and places like that, Spring Hill. A lot of them didn't have internet access either. So you could set up and you could broadcast a beam You know, like I go to Juniper Gardens and broadcast a beam, and you might have a computer, but you didn't have internet access. You got free internet for 8 or 9 hours. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it was different from a college, where when I pull up at some place like Juniper Gardens, they needed those resources of internet access. They come on board to use a computer and use the printer and fax machine and those sort of things because they didn't have access anywhere, where the college would. So,
at one time in the Juniper area, there used to be, I don't know if you recall, Turner House.
Right.
And Turner House would offer some of what you did in that capacity because it was a brick and mortar place that had that lended itself to the community.
Right.
I want to kind of segue, if we can, Eric, if you will, about visibility and access, because that's kind of two things that I want to put an emphasis on with the nature of what we're talking about today, which happens to be kind of bringing Quindaro in particular, but not specifically Quindaro, but maybe the Northeast, unless we can just say urban areas or the hood. Because I think there's some things that plague any particular urban area. You might find the same thing symptomatically in other urban areas.
Oh yeah, you already know.
You already know.
Right.
So, in your opinion, having worked in that capacity, this is a footnote.
Okay.
You mentioned you were in Leavenworth. Well, a primary employer in the county of Leavenworth, if we're talking about working, is the penal institutions. There's more than one in Leavenworth. Was there an arm of the workforce that you were under the umbrella of that kind of had kind of a re-entry for people who were coming back out of the system who could get employed, or was?
Yes.
Okay.
The workforce had what they called a re-entry coordinator.
Okay.
And they supposedly had a re-entry program. To be quite frank,
you said supposedly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be honest.
Okay.
We're being honest. I don't think it was very good.
Okay.
And I don't think it was very good because I don't think we have people in that capacity that understood the people that were trying to re-enter.
Yeah.
Re-enter. You know what I'm saying? And so you didn't even. For example, I found that the guys. That was one reason we started working in the Turner House with that. Energy efficiency.
Okay.
And we started targeting it after ex-cons or people that came out of the penal system, because I found when I was working that the people that had the best qualifications for the job
you already know
were
where I'm
ex-cons.
going. You know where I'm going.
You're right. You already know, man. They had they were the most qualified. Most of them had the skill sets, the soft skills, to be able to talk.
Yes.
And they could count money. Man, all the things that you needed to do
already.
Man, they were motivated.
Yeah, I was gonna say the drive was there.
Oh man, all sorts of skills. For real.
Yes, sir.
The type of things the employers all over Wyandotte County needed.
Yes, sir.
Johnson County needed, but we couldn't get in the door because they were ex-con. So that was one of the reasons we started Rethink Energy at the Turner House.
Okay.
It was first Energy Efficiency Training Center, and that was a group of people. My aunt Sherry included in that. Russ Rudy, and a few people. Where they were training those energy auditors, and we had energy auditor program. Right. And we went from training and recertifying those energy or certifying them, because we came up with this certificate. When I say we, not me.
I got you.
But a group of people that was Energy Efficiency Training Center.
Okay.
And then morphed into Rethink Energy, and we did that for quite a while.
And that still exists to this day that you know of?
Rethink Energy is still in existence.
Okay.
It's not at the Turner House per se. It was going pretty good. Brownback took our money.
No.
I mean, imagine that, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Right. Well, what they had was a program for the neighborhood, and I think that was perfect for what we needed. What they were doing was they were giving those 0% interest loans, and I could come to you, I could make your house energy efficient.
Yes, sir.
For $100. The grant paid the energy auditor, and we were training those ex-cons to do and that was a problem, I think.
Okay.
They were going to work, and they were training people. They were hiring people at $10 an hour just to do the measurements, and all that program was going good. They were hiring people. They were hiring plumbers and all that sort of things.
Yes, sir.
And basically, Brownback said they weren't spending the money quick enough. It was supposed to be a revolving fund.
Okay.
That after 3 years, would support itself.
Okay.
And the money would be lent to the homeowner. If the homeowner sold the home, the loan would stay with the home.
Okay.
And you paid your utility, you paid BPU back. BPU would be the one loaning the money.
Okay.
The program was wonderful.
Oh, so that's
0% interest.
yeah.
It was perfect. And it was going to be self-sustaining in about 18 months. And so Governor Brownback said they weren't spending it fast enough.
Okay.
And took it and gave it, I believe, to an ethanol plant for a study.
Imagine.
And kind of shut down the whole program. So Rethink Energy, that was the whole foundation of our business model. So we've had to kind of readjust and
do some rethinking.
Right. Rethinking our resources, man, because they went away real quick.
On that note, we're going to take a break and we're going to come right back.
Everybody was soul food catering. Everybody
You got
was soul food catering.
You got soul?
Everybody was soul food catering.
got soul?
Everybody was soul food catering.
Come Greene and tell us what we need to know.
You got soul?
Welcome back. Here we are live at the Q. My honored guest, Eric Greene. I'm so glad to have you, brother. Appreciate your time. You really are spitting that knowledge and dropping the science, as I might say, in the old day. I appreciate what you're saying, brother, and what you said with respect to having resources. I think, brother, let's talk about resources and raw resources. And if you're talking about raw resources, you can have gold, but don't have the means, don't have the pick and to retrieve it.
Right.
And there's some things that you need from a logistical perspective to be able to tap the raw element of what you're in pursuit of, and then to refine it, process it, and then to use it in the marketplace where it's in demand.
Right.
I think with respect what you said to energy, very much is the case in the 21st century as things are being repurposed in energy. I would love to see Quindaro in this capacity. Brother, I would love to see a wind farm. I just read something. This harkens back to some conversation you and I were having in the aisle at the grocery store.
Right.
I just read where Rhode Island, just off the coast of Rhode Island, this has just been completed in recent weeks, to where they, excuse me, where they have some turbine wind machinery that goes into the Atlantic.
Right.
So in addition to having it on real estate, it's also aquatic. So generating power. I would love to see Quindaro, because some communities do it already here, to where you have a co-op.
Right.
To where the community owns their energy. Even if it's just a percentage. I'm not saying if they can't supply it in its totality or its entirety.
Right.
But between solar, i.e. where you can also offer jobs where you have people come in and solar installers. Also have the wind farms.
Right.
And then even if we could even have some hydro, have some aquatic stuff.
Right.
So between the three, it may never get to the place, of course, that it can support a total capacity. But maybe in some respects to where now we could have people in those disciplines to work in that area, in the energy sector. They can give back to the community where there can be some ownership. And I always say this with respect, and particularly the things I think that plague the community. Eric, dilapidation, deprivation, and degradation. When people have ownership, it kind of, all that stuff kind of disappears.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It makes a difference.
It makes a big difference.
So in your opinion, as we were talking about, it's not the lack of, as you said, ability, motivation, effort. And we even talked about before we went on air. We mentioned about the time where there was Mr. Walker's of the world. He was an electrician.
Right.
And I remember, Mr. Dickens and his dump service.
Right.
Mr. Lindsay and his tree service. There were black professionals who served the community at large, wherever the demand was for them to make some money. But they were from the community. It was nothing to see them in traffic lights up and down the road, seeing them in their capacity.
Right.
I think the cyber world has changed that to a large degree. But I was happy to hear that you said that still exists out here. We just got to how we source it, our use of it, and the implementation of it. You mentioned about you had kind of at a different place at the time, and you want to take that righteous route as opposed to another place. When you were at the crossroad about some decisions about what you want to do professionally, how old were you? And what were you contemplating? What were you divided between in terms of choices?
I was getting out of the Navy. I'm retired Navy.
Okay.
And I was getting out of the Navy, and I was a nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare specialist in the Navy.
Okay.
So I was taking a job at San Onofre nuclear plant as a safety inspector.
Okay.
I don't know what they were paying. It may have been like 160 grand a year.
Okay.
So pretty good money.
Yes, sir.
Right. And at the same time, I was being offered a job at a Boys and Girls Club. This Be Safe program at $10 an hour. Right.
Right.
But the program was what was up. It really was. You know what I'm saying? It was, I was told a long time ago to do what you would do for free.
Right.
And then don't worry about the money, because that passion, that it'll be made up. The money will be made up.
And you feel that to be so?
I don't know about the money. I don't know if the money's there, but the passion is there. I love getting up and going. When I worked the workforce, I like that. I worked at SRS for a while. I taught school, in school system, special ed for a while at Fairfax Learning Center down here, right? At Northwest Middle School. I was a special ed teacher at Northwest Middle School for a while. So, but they all didn't pay much. So, that's just the way it was. So, those resources I think are important. I think we had the resources. For example, we look at our neighborhood and we see all these abandoned houses. Those are resources. We don't look at them as resources, but they're resources that in order to get those houses where somebody's living in, you have to work on, right? For example, instead of getting a bank loan for that house, well, maybe we can refurbish it and do a contract for deed to people in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Those sort of things, so that people that can't afford to buy a home but can afford to contract and deed them in can be able to do that sort of thing. There's a business plan, a business model. People are doing that right now across the country. Why they're not doing it in Northeast Quindaro? Because they're doing it other places and making money.
And not so far away.
Right. That's a resource that's out here. We have the river, and we have, like you said, train system, and we have the highway. The place for us to build, we could make solar paneling like we were talking about before. And we could employ, I was trying to get Wyandotte High School science students to get involved with that.
I forgot that.
That's still something that can be done where the students can come involved in how do we make solar panels cheaply. Man, that could be a business model that you can ship it anywhere. And one of the reasons they were saying that they don't have a lot of solar work here is because they can't afford it cheaply.
Okay.
Well, if you don't have to ship it, it's right here. You got to manufacture right here. It would be easy for BPU, let's say, to put all solar panels on all the county buildings. And generate power. If BPU is owned by the public, then we benefit. Those sort of things. We just got to look at it differently. And it's that abandoned house isn't a plague; it's a resource that we need to use in some sort of way. I think we don't even have an idea of who we are. For example, that is Quindaro Boulevard is different from Quindaro Township. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
There's a difference between that and Northeast Side.
Yes.
And I remember one of the housing neighborhood associations talking about putting flags up that's saying Quindaro Township or Northeast Side or something, so that when you walk along, just like other neighborhoods, so you can see, this you're putting flags up to say this is our neighborhood or something. Flags or something, so that you can designate and say this is us.
Yes.
And this is Quindaro Township, or this is, and so there's nothing. So most times people can't even tell where the boundaries of Northeast Side are.
That's
because
true.
We haven't defined them.
And
those are things that can be done pretty easily.
Fairly easily.
Right.
I like what you're saying, both from the demarcation sense, but I also think it makes a statement in terms of putting your flag in the sand, so to speak.
Right.
And unless you take some ownership with some things, we can talk about some things in terms of the community, in terms of what we're tolerant of or what we're not tolerant of.
Right.
Be it in a professional or work capacity, or be it from a cultural sense, or be it from a historical sense, as you mentioned. All that can fall under the same umbrella. But I think it has to be some people who are minded and focused in that particular area. I think a certain generation, they know or know of or have heard mention of what you mentioned, Township, Avenue, Boulevard.
Right.
I think that's been lost because we haven't done our part so much as passing the baton in terms of that. And I think sometimes we live in an era, Eric, where we have people have short attention spans. And people want to be entertained more than want to be educated.
Right.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, we got to show them how to do it different, man. Because in an entertaining way, I guess. I don't know. I don't really do that, man. I'm sincere. But that's one reason we started putting the lawn gardens, not lawns. And I don't know if you've been by the house to see the garden out in front of the lawn. It's so that, because we were preaching it all the time to people about grow your own food and grow your own groceries. Now there's hardly any grocery stores in the neighborhood. That's, you want to have a community grocery store that's a co-op.
Right.
It's something like
I
that,
like that.
where,
I like
people can come to that hub and something. But, so you grow your own food. Well, we would do it in the backyard. People go, yeah. We start doing it in the front yard. You wouldn't believe how many young folks will stop and talk about the peppers and the cantaloupe and stuff like that, where at least you're getting them involved, and this is how the process goes and things like that. Just things to think about. He said this neighborhood, it seems like to me, I remember when my grandmother used to teach. Her name was Ruth Greene. She was the administrator. What was her Department of HUD? She was the director of administration for the Department of HUD for the region. Colorado, Missouri, Kansas, right? And she was in office Eagle 2 for a while, downtown 4th and State, right? But I remember her talking about that, how the neighborhoods. She used to run the pageants for the parades, and she used to teach young ladies how to walk and talk, and etiquette. That's exactly what she taught. It was part of what she taught for the neighborhood, and that sort of things. We've lost that sort of things where we're teaching our young kids some of the things skills that you've learned as a young man or a young woman. We kind of lose those, and we lost those a lot when the businesses went away. I remember her used to crying about people would get those loans, those community development loans, and move to Johnson County somewhere. She's all the businesses were on 5th Street, 7th Street, 10th Street, or all Quindaro, all left. So if we're going to change it, man, it seemed like to me you got to refocus on giving to each other. A guy next door, just like I was saying, they're here. I was talking to a guy next door. It was his grandfather's house, and he was working on it. I'm asking what he's doing. Gonna find out he's a certified electrician. I was like, oh, young brother.
You said it's out here.
You're right, 24, 25 years old. He said, so now every time I'm looking for a certified electrician, every time there's electrical work at all, I give him a call. I'm not calling Johnson's Heating and Plumbing. I'm not calling, I'm calling this brother right here. And if he doesn't know, he's gonna find somebody else. So that, and we got to do it like that. Leon's grocery store over there it's in Kansas City, Missouri, but on 44th, over there in Kansas City, Missouri, it's Leon's Thrift, one of the oldest black-owned grocery stores, I think, in the state, or if not the oldest. So, I make sure at least once a month I'll go over there and buy some groceries. Just like my bread or something, man, or something like that. And we have to patronize each other like that, and we don't do that near enough.
My hood rats kinda sorta easy to find, so I practice making orders. Money on the brain while I'm up in Travis Porter. Allergic to temp change, so I don't do quarters. Relaxing, haters be axing. Water mice on your jacket, I'm hood ratting. Stacking cheese, hood rats in action. Pass the ball, it's a chain reaction. Prada, Gucci, Anichi, and hood rats a pearl. I'm stuck in the sky, so I'm sitting on top of the world. Just think about diamonds and pearls, cause I'm sitting on top of the world. Hood rats, hood rats.
This is a nice spot.
Welcome back. During the break, you and I were kind of mentioning some things. Had my father's generation, my dad being 84, coming up here on his 84th birthday. Thank God he's been blessed. Still being in good health. Very much so was the case of that generation to embed on our generation. Get education, get education. Because I believe their thinking was, because you talked about access.
Right.
That education would parlay us to access. Because we could come to the table as being qualified participants to be at the table.
Right.
And I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that was the thinking.
It was the thinking. I think where you fall into an issue there is that, and I always maintain this, as being a black man, you got to work twice as hard for half as much.
Right.
That one thing that wasn't going to change, I don't recall, I don't care what the case is whoever's picture is on the money, that kind of tells you what where the leanings and the proclivities are towards.
Right.
I'm laughing because a good friend of my father's, who was a city councilman, Chester Owens, and they're contemporaries in age.
Right.
He's no longer holding that seat. He had mentioned to his daughter, she just got her doctorate degree. He said, "Baby, congratulations, I'm going to wish you the best. Great future in front of you." And he told her the joke that we're all familiar with. He said, "What do white folks call black folks with PhDs?" He said, "What's that, Daddy?" She said, "Nigga."
Right. It don't matter.
Don't matter.
What you did.
They can switch the color.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make this comment, and this really wasn't where I was going. It's going to tie into what I said. And this is where I happen to be here. I'm kind of, the word racism to me has kind of become exhausted because I moved to this place. Really what racism is, if you'll be honest, and I'm going to get myself a soapbox from it, is protectionism. When people who are in privilege have to protect their privilege, so you draw lines, since we're talking about flags in the stand of demarcation, you draw lines along color or race, because one is fairly obvious and it's evident to do. But also let me show you where it takes, because if we were in privilege, we would be protectionists of privilege. People who are really the biggest beneficiaries of the privilege that they enjoy don't really care about race. They don't really care about color unless the color is green. What they do is they have their imps and their minions do their fighting for them.
Right.
And they, in many instances, are a much different place in what we happen to find ourselves in socially or economically anyway.
Right.
But where they put themselves on the pedestal is, I may not be this and I may not be that, but at least I ain't a nigga.
Right.
I'm not black.
Right.
So you can change your education area. You can change your neighborhood. You can change where you're employed. You can't ever change your race. So the brilliance of protectionism, of making it along the lines of race, means is that regardless of whatever things that you're able to accomplish, this is one thing that you can never eliminate. And people who are so shallow as to believe that their superiority is that they're not what you are, shows you that there's another puppet master.
Right. Right. That's their own self-esteem.
Yes.
Issues coming into play.
That's manipulating the person who doesn't feel enough about themselves and the person who feels superior to take advantage of them.
Right.
And it's both, when you can keep the minions and the imps, it protects even another level, if you will,
Right.
of what you enjoy in your state of privilege.
Right.
So we keep saying racism, and it's really protectionism. It falls out racially,
Right.
but it's protectionism.
Right. It's easy to do.
It's easy to do.
It was the reason why they had African slaves and not Native American slaves.
You see what I'm saying?
You know, it was a lot easier. Every place Africans went,
Yes.
you know they were there.
You know we're there.
You know they're there.
You know we were there.
You go to Philippines and there's a chocolate city over there where all the sailors were. You know what I'm saying? So you know they were there.
This is a family show here.
I'm sorry. But yeah, man, I know exactly what you.
I know exactly what I'm saying.
And integration, I think, was part of that issue. I think you're exactly right, man. I think that was I tell people all the time. I think we're those descendants of prisoners of war, because I don't like those terms, ex-slaves or descendants of slaves. Because we're descendants of prisoners of war. If you look at some of our behaviors, generationally,
Yes.
and you look at the behaviors of prisoners of war,
They parallel?
generationally, it's the same.
Okay.
Man, it's really easy to see if you do the research and look at it. But so I think as descendants of prisoners of war, we have to change. we have to change our way of thinking.
Yes.
Because they're not going to change. That protectionism is there. Like
It's there.
you're saying, if your great grandfather came in and took this house, I don't care who it was.
Polka dot
Nobody,
stripe.
man, you're not giving it back.
You're not giving it
You
back.
in this house. It's yours now. You know, I don't
Exactly.
care where your grandfather got it from. It's yours. And so we understand that. So we're going to have to change. And you know, that's why I really don't particularly care for or think that marches and protests really amount to much.
Okay.
Because I mean they're good and they're fine maybe to galvanize people for a second.
And I think publicity-wise, they serve a purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's that. But what you're asking people to do is change their hearts and minds by protesting and marching and things like that. Because like Black Lives Matter is a perfect example. I think they're a wonderful organization,
Yeah.
but they're asking whites to change.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Blacks already know their lives matter.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that if instead we turn to giving each other those resources, they don't have to necessarily be money.
Okay.
Which is the reason why I do a lot of with Angela with the gardening and different people. Why I try to do a lot of things, giving my sweat equity, as you want to call it, because
I've
it's
seen you
worth
do it.
something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir.
It's worth something if I don't have the resources. One way, there's got to be resources enough to help somebody else's dream.
Right.
You know, because there's a lot of people in Northeast side that are doing good things. A lot of them. We don't know about them. There's got to be a way. Sharon and I talk about all that time, all the time, where there's got to be some sort of newsletter or internet or some sort of way where we can connect, we can see each
That's
other.
what Live at the Q
Most
for.
people don't see what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Most people don't see what anybody's doing.
Right.
So this is a perfect,
Vehicle.
venue
Yeah.
and vehicle to bring those people, because they don't know.
Right.
They have no clue
Right.
who's out here doing what. And man, there's enough people and there's enough resources in our neighborhoods where we can transform it. And we don't need anybody else. We really don't. If we just did it ourselves, you know what I'm saying? And stop shopping. If man, we get anything out of this conversation, is I think our main problem, we just need to stop shopping. And I know that's hard. That's hard to say.
When you're a consumer culture, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And it's all, this whole culture is built on
Yes.
consumerism.
Yes.
And that's the slave trade.
That's the slave trade.
You know, because you're gonna be forever.
Eric, I didn't know we were trying to
enslaved.
be this deep, but I'm
I'm sorry, man. It's the truth, though. It's the truth, man. If we just stop shopping, you know how many houses I've cleaned out. I used to work with my brother with Housing Authority.
Okay.
And we go clean out houses that people leave, and get kicked out or whatever the situation. You know the amount of thousands and thousands of dollars I would see in just clothes alone that black folks we would leave behind with tags still on it and stuff. I mean, we just buy stuff. We'll buy stuff and buy stuff. I got a young man that friends with his mom, and he gets upset because he got to have a shoe game. He's 8 years old.
No.
But he's concerned about having a shoe game
at 8.
You know what I'm saying? It's harsh for him.
Right.
Because if he don't get his shoe game
It's
right,
hard
they're
out here
all
for you, girl.
right, man. But that's great. That's the reality, that we are just have our mindset so much on this consumerism and this
Program.
and we're so basically we're taking our resources that we're saying are limited anyway, and giving them to white America.
Yes.
We just give them to white America. Here we go, and then we asking them, please, can we have some resources? Man, just give it to ourselves and forget that. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not anti-white. Don't get me,
By no means.
don't get me
By
wrong.
no
I'm not
means. By
anti-white.
no
I'm just saying, man, if I got to get an electrician to do my wiring, I'm going to call a brother.
Do the
or a
wires
sister.
know it was a brother put the
There
in line?
you go. But that brother certainly is
He
going to
knows
be
the
the
difference.
one, if he lives in that neighborhood, that is going to spend in the neighborhood.
Thank you. And let's right there, what you said, lives there and spends there.
Right.
Because when we initially said, before I got on my protection and with consumerism and all that is a component of what we're talking about.
Right.
When our parents' generation said to us about getting an education, there wasn't, we're familiar with black flight. In fact, Quindera one time was white.
Right.
The Boulevard State.
Conduera Boulevard.
Right. Quindera Township was everybody, it was a melting pot.
Right.
And it operated in the economic sense as such.
Right.
This is not a history lesson. We still alive with the Q. We still put it down.
Yeah, right.
This is but what they said was to get an education. But I don't think that they accounted for that we would take our, and this is what I always maintain. I always say this, and I tell this to my black people, friends, and family. who originate from the Q, but don't happen to necessarily live there anymore. I say live wherever your money affords for you to be able to live. You want to live in a gauge money, you want to live on the moon. I don't particularly care where you live there.
Right.
What I'm saying is what you mentioned about Leon's. Come back to the hood and get you some Zoom Zooms and some Wham Whams from the corner store.
Right.
Some hot pickles and some now laters on occasion. Just leave your your dollar never leave.
Right.
If you're behind leaves, that's fine, but leave your dollar behind.
Right. Support in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And give that person a chance, because those are those same people. Walker Electric was the same person that was sponsoring baseball teams and football teams and basketball teams.
There you go.
And you know what I'm saying? To get those kids
that identity, putting their flag in the sand. Have Walker on your jersey.
Right. So if you're not giving him the money, he can't give it to somebody else. So that's something that we stopped doing. And, you know, Fast Freddy's needs somebody to go by there and buy a loaf of pickle loaf every now and then. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just so that's the person
I got a name drop. And he's got some soul food hot sauce up there, too.
You already know. Right.
So, that being said, get yours today. Eric, we can identify the problem. What's the solution? And wait a minute. I'm not putting an onus of guilt on you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because as you mentioned, you put sweat. I can verify it. Mm-hmm. I've seen you put the sweat equity in.
Right.
Where is it? And I'm never of the opinion that, what can I do? I'm just one person. I think that all it takes is one person.
Right.
But how can we encourage and set the model? Because when you hire that brother who does your electrical work, then now when I need an electrician, I don't know his name, but I can call, hey Eric, who's that cat you use?
Right.
Closed mouth don't get fed. Mm-hmm. So it's a referral. We used to have the black pages.
Right.
Don't have that anymore. So what can we do in terms of tapping? You already established it's not that the resources aren't there. How do we mine them?
And I think you're doing a good job of start. It's got to be communication. I mean, you know, whether it's communication on print or on video or a TV show or some sort of way where we got to communicate with each other what's going on. But, you know, we have neighborhood associations, and I think we even have an umbrella neighborhood association over those, but you don't even hear about them. Right. They're doing something, and the neighborhood is changing. And,
it is.
You know, and we got to be mindful of the fact that it's changing. Yeah. And I think the only way to do it is one person at a time, and through some sort of communication, mass communication. Because other than that, man, the same issues we talk about now is the same issues they were talking about 40 years ago. And the same issues we were talking about 60 years ago. And you know, we're rehashing the same thing. And to the point where a lot of the older folks that were my mentors won't even get involved anymore, because it's like, man, we fixed that problem 30 years ago. I'm tired of redoing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So we're losing those people. And so there's got to be a way that we got to do things differently. And the only thing that can do differently, that I can see that we can do differently, is forget outside and do it ourselves. Because we always call people in. We just need to do it we got to do it ourselves.
You said we are our own Calvary.
There ain't nobody else. Ain't nobody coming to save us. Ain't nowhere in the world. Ain't nobody coming to save us.
Nobody's coming.
It's just us. If we don't do it ourselves, it won't be done.
It won't be done.
And so I just decided to live my life like that. I'm just
by that
do
example.
It. You know, right.
And I see it. Yeah.
That's the only reason I own
That's
a truck
why you're
to this
against.
day. Right. That's the only reason I own a truck to this day.
Right.
Man, I got so tired of asking people to borrow a truck, paying somebody to borrow a truck. I don't care if it's an old raggedy truck that can't hardly move. When I need a truck, I can turn it on and I got a truck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That self-reliance, we're just going to have to do that in a community environment. We're just going to have to, because it's not going to come from anybody else. It's just not.
I think intrinsically, like you said, we have to look in the mirror, look at ourselves, because we are. If we can assess that what the problem is, and we have to be a solution.
Right.
And then I got to throw Gil Scott here in his props. The revolution is televised.
Yes, it's televised now. And that's new, and I love it.
Yes, sir. You know, it's televised.
It's got to be, man.
It's got to be. And he that had the ear, let him hear, is what the Bible says. He that had the ear, let them hear. So I think that in terms of receptivity, you know, I think if we want to talk about frequencies, people are tuned in to what appeals to them. So if you're tuned into what appeals to you, if there's some conviction that happens as a result of what you're tuned into that happens on an intellectual level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, then, brother, that's when the rubber meets the road. And that's when you will see the parlaying of the evidence of seeing. I thought that was ain't that Eric's electrician? No, he's my electrician now.
Right. And that's where it's supposed to be, man. Seriously. You know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Eric, we appreciate you coming out.
Most definitely.
As is our custom, we always give our guest. This is our primary sponsor, what I'm wearing.
Okay.
So this is yours.
Oh, okay.
Hood Rats, because you got street cred.
Oh.
You got neighborhood cred.
I like that. I like that. Man, that's good. And I like that it's a wife beater almost. Can I say that? I might get in trouble for
You
that.
might get in trouble for that one.
I like that, man.
Absolutely,
I
brother. We appreciate you. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Live at the Q.
What a beautiful life. All that I've got is all that I need. I got you, baby, you got me. What more could I ask for? Beautiful life. We got beautiful life. I got what a beautiful life. Beautiful life. Listen, I woke up this morning, y'all. The sun was shining oh so brightly. I thought about how good this life is. Back in the day, it wasn't always like this. I think about the things we done been through. I think about the place that I come from. It wasn't always easy, so every day I'm thanking God for the beautiful people everywhere I go. I just need to see your smiling faces at my show. And when you're feeling real love from the family, every day is a gift, y'all, that's all I need. What a beautiful life. All that I've got is all that I need. I've got you, baby, you got me. What more could I ask for? Beautiful life. Beautiful life. We got beautiful life. I got a beautiful life. Beautiful life. Happiness, you know, it feels real good, y'all. For us to get it, then we gotta work hard, y'all. Every day. And don't pay attention to the things they say when they tell you that you can't make it, but you can if you try, y'all. When life is rough, I know sometimes you wanna cry, y'all. Just keep the faith and don't question. Ain't no need of stressing. Your life is still a blessing.
About the cars, the money, or the clothes.
You can believe these things will only come and go, but when you're getting real love from everyone you meet, it's a blessing, y'all. It's magic, y'all.
What a beautiful life.